I absolutely love the MCU and the Avengers. One of the reasons I enjoy it, though, is that it's a really interesting mix of genres. Even canceled director Josh Whedon says so in his commentary.
At the same time, we have all these different, not just, scenes, but quite frankly, genres.
Of course, all of the movies are in the superhero genre, but it's really not possible to have a film only in the superhero genre. They all need a secondary genre. This includes the quote-unquote realistic Batman films that fall into such categories as action or detective. What's great about superhero team-ups is the fact that each character is from its own little subworld of a different genre. Now, I don't think this was done on purpose. I don't think the writers of Marvels got together and said, hey guys, let's do a mix of genres. But it really is a fun coincidence. One of the main genres in the Avengers is sci-fi. It's hard to come up with an exact definition of what sci-fi is. Even if you Google it, it just kind of gives you examples and not a definition. But really, it has to do with impossible technologies or future events. In my mind, sci fi is any narrative with fictional aspects that can be explained scientifically. The Star Trek teleporters, for example, they have explanations of how that work. It's not possible yet, which is why it's sci fi, but compare that to something like Harry Potter, where everything is just explained by magic. That's not scientific. The impossible aspects can be well researched and have a lot of actual science in it. A good example of that is The Martian or The Expanse. Or it could have almost no real scientific accuracy. A good example of that is Doctor Who. Depending on your definition of sci-fi, it can go as far back as the 2nd century and tales like a true history that describes a war between the Sun People and the Moon People. However, what we really think of science fiction started in 1818 with the novel Frankenstein. The genre really started to pick up in literature in the early 1900s with authors like H.G. Wells and Julian Verne, and by the 1930s, Astounding Magazine really made it a household thing. What's interesting about the Avengers is that there are two main characters that represent sci-fi. One is where science has gone right and one where science has gone wrong. Iron Man is clearly science gone right. Since the start of sci-fi, people love to hear tales of advanced technology that will benefit mankind. One of the earliest examples is Julian Verne's 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea, that gave us a functioning submarine and supersuit way before it was reality. The prime example of sci-fi gone right, though, is probably Star Trek, where technology has gone so well that it has directly helped humanity enter a utopia. Science fiction gone wrong is represented by Hulk, which also really represents monster stories. Stories and monsters go back to ancient times. The very first narrative that we have written down, the Epic of Gilgamesh, is loaded with monsters. Other classic monster stories include Grendel and Beowulf, or the Cerberus in ancient Greece. Even the Bible, arguably the most influential narrative humanity has ever seen, regardless of where you are spirituality, is loaded with monsters. However, it comes back to Frankenstein again, that first gave us a monster that was created through scientific means, as opposed to a supernatural one. Other writers like H.G. Wells and Robert Louis Stevens would continue that and create the scientist who experiments on himself. And that's where it goes wrong. If you're reading a novel or watching a movie and the scientist is about to experiment on himself, you know this is probably going to be a monster movie. Movie adaptations of these stories, as well as other B movies such as The Fly, would make the mad scientist narrative a cliche. Captain America has a hint of science fiction with the super soldier serum, but there's another genre going on more important here, and that's World War II propaganda. Believe it or not, there was a time when Hollywood would support the war effort. Not like today, or maybe a little bit like today. It's kind of back and forth. Either way, World War II propaganda made heroes out of America, unless you were in Germany, where it would make the heroes out of Germans. And it supposedly helped gave the soldiers and the culture itself morality to move on. If you want more information on any propaganda films, check out any Quentin Tarantino film. Black Widow represents spy movies. Spy movies in Hollywood go back to the Hitchcock days with films like 39 Steps, but what we know of spy films today started in 1962 with Dr. No, the first James Bond film. When we think of spy films now, we think of looking cool, having fun, combat technology, and kicking ass. All what Black Widow does. Even the Black Widow film is in many ways a James Bond film. It even ends with an elaborate over the top evil layer by some government slash corporate bad guy who uses someone much stronger to use all of his dirty work. What's really fun with the superhero matchup genres is that they get really random. To me, they get most random with Thor, who represents mythology, specifically Norse mythology. Every ancient culture, from ancient or ancient Native American, has their own mythology, and most include tales of gods and heroes. The most famous today, at least in our culture, would be the Greek mythology, which Hollywood really seems to like. We all know who Zeus and Hercules are, in mild form or another, even if we never picked up a Greek mythology book. Norse mythology is really Vikings mythology, so making a superhero warrior out of one of their gods actually is very smart. And then there's Hawkeye, who is from. Yeah, I got nothing. I mean, Tony says both Black Widow and Hawkeye are assassins,
A couple of master assassins.
so maybe he's a spy like Black Widow? What's great about the MCU is that they really embrace these genres and go kind of out and silly instead of trying to make them quote unquote realistic and quote unquote gritty. I think about the Mortal Kombat fan film that came out about 10 years ago, where all the monsters weren't from another dimension or hell or anything like that. They were just psychopaths in costume. It was an attempt to make it realistic, but it kind of made it lose the magic of what Mortal Kombat is. In another world, the multiverse, if you will, we see that happen with the MCU, but not in this universe, thankfully. We see the science montages and experiments gone wrong. We see a fun America movement and Asgard with all of the monsters and magic. What's also great about the MCU is that the genres don't end with Phase 1. As the MCU grew, so did its genres. But that's for a different day. Hey guys, thanks for watching my movie. I've wanted to start a YouTube channel for quite a while now, so I'm excited to finally do it. And you know, every YouTuber tells you to subscribe, but I actually mean it. You should actually do it. See you later.